So, welcome to the Pandemic Pinup Happy Hour. Today's Halloween theme is ghosts. I didn't really, I've been trying to dress according to every theme, but I didn't think wearing like a white sheet with the holes cut out for eyes would be very conducive to bartending. I felt like that would be kind of unwieldy, but you never know. So, if anybody else does that at home, send me a video. That would make my day watching someone in like an old school ghost costume making drinks. But yeah, I didn't want to have any issues with shaking or being able to communicate. So maybe I'll just do that in my free time on my own. But as per usual, we have three cocktails. I'm really excited about these cocktails. Some of them are just kind of kooky renditions or tributes to things that I enjoy in the Halloween season, and then others are just kind of things I came up with. So we'll go ahead and start with something I'm calling the we have Jade coming in and hanging out. Ooh, it's been a minute since she's been to class. How exciting. I love when new people come in. If you're on Facebook, there's a Zoom link. You can join the Zoom room. It's way cooler in here. Not to say that on Facebook you aren't cool, you're just less cool. But yeah, hello, Miss Jade. Super excited that you are joining us today. And then let me see. Gosh, I hate this new update. Okay, cool. I'm pinned. All right. So for our cocktails today, we have some infusions that we've made ahead of time. I just want to remind anybody, if you are tuning into this, whether it's through the Facebook feed or if you happen to be watching these after the fact when they get published on YouTube, there are little flyers that get put out at the beginning of each week ahead of class. And these flyers have all of the preparations that you need to make ahead of time if you are going to make these cocktails. So for example, today we have a white tea infused vodka. We have a pumpkin infused whiskey. So the instructions on amounts, ratios, procedures, whatever it is that you need to do to make these products are on those flyers. So if you find yourself watching class and you're like, oh, I don't have pumpkin whiskey, it's probably because it's on the flyer. So either look it up on the Facebook page, that's where they're all published, or reach out to me personally, and I'll be more than happy to individually send you the recipes that you need or walk you through any possible substitutions you may be able to either make yourself or even buy yourself. You can buy almost anything these days. So for our first cocktail, I'm gonna make something I call Ecto Goggles. I love the OG Ghostbusters. I have yet to see the new one. I heard it was good. I'm kind of like on the fence. I hate when I watch something that I grew up with be changed. I like things the way they were, but I absolutely adore the original Ghostbusters movie. And so they have Ecto Goggles and different kinds of tools that are all quirky and weird to be able to detect phantasmagoric things going on. So I named that this cocktail that because it kind of glows, and we're going to go over how and why and how you can recreate this at home with this cocktail or a different one. So you will need a cocktail shaker. Again, if you don't have one of those, you can use mason jar with a lid, Tupperware container with like a little top on it. Just keep a good, really good tight hold on there. So we're going to use our white tea vodka, and we're going to use 1.5 ounces. Put it right into our shaker. Then we're going to use some limoncello. If you're part of the cool crowd, some of us have decided to make homemade limoncello over the holidays and try to maybe do an exchange. So if you want in on that, holler at your girl. Let me know. I think I'm going to shoot for pecan limoncello, make it very Texan. But for this cocktail, I'm just using regular limoncello, and I'm going to use 1/2 ounce. Put that in there. And then I'm going to use 1/2 ounce of fresh lemon juice. All right. And that pretty much right now is all we got going on. So what we're going to add to this, that's our cocktail base. It's basically kind of like a little bit of a vodka soda is what we're kind of doing a riff on. So I have this really neat little herb that looks all creepy and leafy. It's called tarragon. And tarragon is something I feel like not enough people know about, or if they do, they don't know how to use it. But it smells both woody and minty at the same time. And let me see if I can describe this on camera, like the actual flavor. So it has like a very small, subtle, like citrus note. And then you get an herbal tone that you would get from something similar to basil, but then you get that nice light minty note. It's not incredibly minty, it's not incredibly citrus, it's just kind of nicely herbal without being too much of one thing or the other. That's why I really like it. It complements things really nicely without being like, bam, basil in the face, or like, whoo, lots of mint. So tarragon is something I really like. It's a little more elegant, I think. So we're gonna put some of this in here and we're gonna muddle it. I don't know if we've ever muddled anything on this. We might have. It's been a long time since we've been doing these classes, or it feels like it has. So just a few light presses, nothing crazy. Then we're gonna put some ice in our shaker, as we do. Also, if you eat straight tarragon after a while, your tongue starts to tingle a little bit, and those are just like, I'm thinking they're the phenolic properties or like the little menthol properties within the leaf that just give you this really nice tingling sensation. I like that. I don't think that'll be coming across in the cocktail all that much. So maybe just eat some on the side if you want your tongue to have a freak out session. But we're gonna shake for about 10 seconds. We've had Noobs have to bounce off, which hopefully he'll update me later. Casey, if you see this later, I hope you're doing well and healing. I hope you got taken care of at the clinic. So to this, we're gonna add some tonic water. Now tonic water is made with something called quinine. Some people pronounce it differently, but that's how I'm doing it today. Now quinine reacts to black lights. So it's really neat when you have a little black light party, or maybe you do that for Halloween, and then you put tonic in your drinks, they all glow this really neat shade of like blue or green. It kind of depends on your brand. I will say it works better in fully clear cocktails. So if you were having a gin and tonic, it would react to a black light. Because I put in like limoncello, which is kind of cloudy, and then some tea infused vodka, which is a little dark, then it's going to affect its ability to be able to reflect that black light really well. So I've come up with a plan. I'm adding about 4 to 5 ounces of tonic water directly into my shaker. And then I have this nifty little cup over here. I'm gonna fill some ice in there. And I'm gonna strain my cocktail directly over my ice. I might add a little more tonic, a little more ice later. It just kind of depends on your glass, on your preference. Some people like it with a little less tonic. Also kind of depends on your tonic. Not all tonics are created equally nowadays. You have like Indian tonic, Mediterranean tonic. I just went with like the classic Canada Dry, been around forever tonic water. So our garnish, to make it look kind of gnarly, gonna be one of these little leaves just kind of floating in there. So it looks like something might be crawling and creeping in our drink. And then if you don't have black lights, or if you do, I encourage you to do this anyway, but carefully, you're gonna get glow stick, and then you're gonna put it in your drink so it glows from the inside out. Now, when you do this, please, please, please be sure that none of this has popped and has started to leak. Because if you don't, and it is leaking and it's in your drink, you're now gonna drink glow stick fluid. And much to everyone's dismay, it doesn't turn you into glow stick, it just poisons you, and nobody wants to be poisoned. So that, the ghouls and goblins, is the Ecto Goggles cocktail. I would love to show it to you under a black light. I've tried it in my house. I don't have good black light lamps, and my house is terrible with lighting. So if I find a way to make this glow better at night, I'll take a secondary picture for you guys. But you can see the glow stick in there, and if it's dark out, it glows glow. So it's pretty neat. So that's Ecto Goggles. And then we're gonna do the grape pumpkin, which is probably not only my favorite cocktail today, but also one of my favorite things to do in Halloween is to watch the Charlie Brown special. And you have Lionel, who believes, he's very confused as a kid. He thinks that there is this thing called the great pumpkin that comes into pumpkin patches every Halloween and leaves gifts for children, because he doesn't understand that that is much more similar to what happens at Christmas. So it's just this very cute tale. I've grown up every year watching it, and it's just super entertaining to watch this kid. And yet has some friends that are just like, you're crazy. Then he has other friends that are just like, you know what, we're going to support you and stay in this pumpkin patch and wait for the great white pumpkin. So I just think it's a really cool little thing on friendship, and also just believing in things no matter how many times people tell you it's not true or that it's wrong. So dedicating this to him because he always believes in himself. And this is a stirred cocktail, which means there's no shaker involved. And we are going to be using some very interesting ingredients. I have wild turkey, which I'm not always a big drinker of. I'm slowly becoming more familiar with it, but it is a high proof bourbon. And I've infused it. So this is Wild Turkey 101. And I've infused it with pumpkin for 101 hours because I'm crazy like that. I did try doing it for like 24 hours, 48 hours, and then I was like, oh, these are all good, but what would happen if it's Turkey 101 and then I infused it for 101 hours? Now, is the 101 hours necessary? Probably not. I didn't really do a taste test between 96 hours and 101. So just so we're very clear, 101 is 4 days and 5 hours. So you could probably cut it off at 4 days, but I'm extra. So we did 101 hours. Also, a fun fact, if you infuse it that long, it gets a lot of the gelatinous properties that are in pumpkin that can like thicken things. It depends on what kind of pumpkin you're using, because you could use like a kabocha squash style pumpkin. You could use any kinds of actual squash would also work. I used an actual pumpkin and they tend to like have a little bit of a gelatinous nature. So having put this in the fridge, I don't know if y'all can tell, but it's thick. Kind of thick. I don't know how to portray this very well on camera, but imagine it's kind of thick. When you pull it out of the fridge and it's been in there all day, it's almost like unshakable. It's like liquid jelly. So now that it's more in room temp, it's starting to get closer to that whiskey consistency. So we are going to use 1.5 ounces of our high proof pumpkin infused Wild Turkey 101. I will say though, when infusing this, as I was trying to explain that sometimes I did 24 hours, 48 hours, and so forth, the flavors were always really nice. Sometimes if you are infusing liquors, some things that are, or something that's good to take into account is you could have this great flavor at 24 hours, and then at 36 hours, you're like, oh no, it's not as tasty anymore. And then sometimes that flavor will come back after 48 hours. So it really depends on your ingredient. Infusion times are all across the board. Try it out, and if you've never infused anything before, test it, and I would suggest 2 to 4 hour intervals along the way. And maybe you only do 1 ounce or 2 ounces of your whiskey or your vodka, and that way when you want to do a bigger batch, say you want to do a whole bottle of like white tea vodka, you know exactly how long to leave it in there instead of maybe wasting a whole bottle and not getting the exact flavor that you're looking for. So we have 1.5 ounces of our wild turkey. I'm going to do 1.5 ounces of Averna Amaro, which is one of my favorites. It's really, really tasty. It's got like these caramel chocolatey notes to it, a light citrus tone. We're going to use 1.5 ounces of that as well. If I have any cocktail nerds out there that are really into Negronis, you might be suspecting that this has a similar build because Negronis are usually equal parts, everything in equal parts. However, I'm going to throw you for a loop. And that third part is going to be 2 things. So we're going to put in a 3/4 ounce of sweet vermouth. Somebody's popping back in. Let them in the room. And we're going to add a 3/4 ounce of coffee. Now you can't use any coffee. I highly recommend using a strongly brewed coffee or even an espresso, just because all of the other flavors in here really need to be able to stand up and shine. And if you use like a mellow, weak brewed coffee, it's just going to kind of fall back. So I have an espresso that I did, and I'm going to ice up my mix. And I go to a little stir. So very simple, right? There, like nothing crazy. There's no bitters, no simples, no citrus. It's all just balancing all of these ingredients together. I will say if you use a different bourbon and you infuse it with pumpkin, your flavor is going to change a little bit. Not all coffees are created equal, so that'll also change it. And then Averna is going to be consistent. That's like our consistency in this cocktail, but your sweet vermouth. There are so many out there. You could use any sweet vermouth you like. You could try a sweet white vermouth instead of a sweet red vermouth. This was just my preference. I think it worked out really, really well. So it wouldn't be the great white pumpkin. We did have this really adorable little pumpkin glass that I made. Oh, one of those little mini pumpkins for like $2, and I'm putting my cocktail in here. So if you are going to turn a pumpkin into a cup, you want to make sure that you not only scoop out all the innards, but I like to go over it with a melon baller because the walls on the scoop part of the melon baller are almost like a knife. They're really, really thin and sharp. So it's easier to scrape it all out and you get any of those little like strings that can be left behind. And then before you use it, make sure you rinse it out because you don't want weird floaties in the cocktail that you serve to somebody. So we're gonna put some ice in here. We're gonna strain this beautiful, beautiful cocktail. And I just really like this combination. I don't know why I can't remember how to use the dual strainer right now. But this pumpkin is so beautifully stark white and this cocktail is so beautifully dark brown. So you have this gorgeous contrast of color for a very simple cocktail. It needs maybe one more ice cube. Oh, right to the brim. Then I'm gonna use this black straw to make it super Halloween-like. And that I'm gonna bring it over and show you guys. And I know you can't see through the glass, so I want you to see in between the glass. So yeah, see that contrast? Very simple looking, but also just kind of very festive, very fun. You can also just put this in a regular glass. You don't have to be extra. This class is all about Chandler being unnecessarily extra today. Starting with the glow sticks and the 101 hours of infusion, and now glass is made of pumpkins. It's just gonna get worse. So that is this cocktail. And I really want people to try this. This is so interesting because it's got a savory quality to it that you don't always get in a Negroni. Negronis are very popular because they have a lot of bitter tones. There's just something that pumpkin does that really brings out this really nice savoriness that is kind of unexpected. And it's one of those things that as you're drinking it, you might even think, I don't know if I like this, but you keep drinking it because you're not sure. And if you keep drinking it, some part of you likes it. And it just tells me that that's your body or your mouth exploring new flavors. So if your body or your mouth is ever telling you like, I don't know if I'm about this flavor, but then you keep eating it, it's just you discovering new combinations and your brain doesn't know how to handle it. We don't get a huge amount of new things put into our diets or our drinks as we grow up. We don't have mom telling us you got to eat all your vegetables or you don't get to play outside. So I'm the bartender telling you got to drink all the crazy cocktails or you don't get to drink. This is how it works, people. Try new things, get weird and crazy. So for our last cocktail today, I'm really excited about this one. I decided to challenge myself to use an ingredient that I've really steered away from for a very long time, and that would be American honey, which is, if you're unfamiliar, it's a exceptionally smooth liquor blended with pure honey and bourbon whiskey. You can quote Wild Turkey on that. So still staying, I guess, in the Wild Turkey family. I guess the reason I stay away a lot from spirits like this is just because they're so sweet. I'm really anti-sweet cocktails for my personal preference. I like spirit-forward cocktails, but I thought it would be really nice to do kind of a play of like milk and honey and then add in some different flavors to bring it all together. So I created something that I'm calling the Barstool Phantom, just to make it like very bartender dirty, but also Halloween. This is going to be a shake and creamy cocktail. And while it is on the sweeter side, it's not too sweet. I wouldn't go as far as to classify it as a dessert cocktail. It would work as one, but it's not so sweet that you can't drink more than one. That's my issue with sweet cocktails. You drink one and you're like, oh, that's it, no more, just one. But this one, I feel like you can keep coming back to. So we're going to be using gin as our base spirit. And we're going to use 1.25 ounces. And let me make sure that everyone watching is aware. When you're doing cocktails that have dairy or cream, you want to be very careful and very aware of your alcohol content. So you might be at home thinking, well, Chandler maybe is a lightweight. She only does 1.25 ounces. I could do 1.5 ounces, or I could do 2 ounces. And you probably could, and I probably could too. But you know who can't? Milk and cream. You're just going to end up with a curdled cocktail, which is a whole different thing if you're trying to clarify cocktails. Not when you're trying to drink. So follow the ratios that I have laid out for a reason. Your content of alcohol is really important. So like this gin is 43%. So if you have something 43 or lower, this will work. Same with American turkey or wild turkey. Wild turkeys, American honey, whatever their proof is, I can't remember at the moment, it's 35.5. So if you have this, or you say there are other honey-based whiskey liqueurs out there, check your proof. If it's 35.5 or below, you'll be safe. If it starts to get higher than that, you might have an issue with some of these dairy ratios. So we have 1.25 ounces of the gin, 3/4 ounce of American honey. And then we're going to do 1/4 ounce of simple syrup. And you don't have to do what I'm about to do. This is just kind of like some OCD thing that I've always done as a bartender. Whenever I put dairy or milk into my cocktails, I ice my shaker first and then let the cream or the milk go over the ice and then hit the cocktail because it helps chill it more. So therefore, there's even less of a risk of curdling. But if your ratios are fine, it won't curdle. You can just go ahead and put the milk in there. It's just like this OCD thing I do. You don't have to do that. But I'm going to ice my shaker. Then I'm going to add in a 3/4 ounce of cream, and this is heavy whipping cream. You could do this with half and half, but I'm kind of making half and half because then I'm going to use 1/4 ounce of milk. But it's not a 50-50 ratio, so that's why I'm using cream and milk instead of half. But you could just be lazy and use half. And now we're going to shake. All right, so now that we've got that shaken up, I have this adorable little glass right here. I'm going to strain the cocktail up. If you are new to the game, that means no ice. So I'm going to put this in here. You could double strain it if you want to, which means you run it through a separate strainer as well. I don't really feel the need for it, but I love this cocktail just because the flavor is amazing. Let me tell you that right now. But also it's stark white, so it is our best ghostly cocktail. The aroma on it is really nice, but I'm a sucker for like orange blossom honey. So in the spirit of that, I have some orange blossom water. I have my little spritzer to be fancy. I just give it a little perfume spritz. And then to garnish it, I have some super cool honeycomb. I'm going to just put that there. A lot of people like to snack on that, so it's a drink and a snack, which is my favorite kind of drink. But, guys, this is the Barstool Phantom. And if you wanted to be super nerdy, like I like to do, you have a glass like this, put little googly eyes on it, and now it's a ghost. Please do that and then send me pictures of all your little ghostly drinks. That would make me so happy. But that is our class for today. We have made 3 cocktails, all very tasty. If you make them at home, have any issues, please reach out. I'm very sad that we're getting close to the end of our Halloween themes. As you can tell, I have fully indulged. But next week, we'll be doing the class M is for Murder. And we will be making cocktails that are somewhat inspired by crime and horror movies. So I decided to go with horror movies that were actually inspired by real life criminals or murderers. And we'll be doing one that's a rendition to Scream, one that's a rendition to Silence of the Lambs or Hannibal, and one that is a rendition to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because you could not do Texas. Okay, can't do that. But it's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be a little crazy. There's a very chef heavy cocktail in there. So come get wild with me. Wear your best like murderous outfits and join in the classroom. And yeah, like I said, these classes get published. The little flyer goes out with all the little things you need to do. So if you have any questions beforehand, feel free to reach out. But in the meantime, thank you for joining me if you're on Facebook or YouTube, and come back next time. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the live feed and hang with the cool people in the cool room. You could be here. It could be you. But it's not today. It's just them. And it's just us. So I will see you Facebook and YouTube watch this later.